Hi and welcome back to MDriven. This is a bit of a coding session because I thought we should look at Xamarin, or rather how to do apps for devices. So I create a new Xamarin Forms project, and I will use the option for portable library because the other option is sort of strange and this takes a while to set up. I don't have a Mac, so I will not do that straight off the bat. We will have to do that later. And we end up with one for iOS, one project for iOS and one for UAWP, but we're gonna focus on the Android one just for now. The Android all these platform specific projects have or should have very little code in them, just what's platform specific, and everything else should go in some portable library so that it can be reused. Let's see how this demo application looks that we get from the Xamarin Forms wizard. It builds and it will start up in my emulator here. So on the emulator you can set things as the camera and things like that, but if you click one item you get a new view and you can create new items. Hello. Description, and you can save them, and once you save them you have them in the end of the list, but that was off screen. So okay, so why do I talk about this? Well, I would like to introduce you to how to use MDriven development with the Android or the Xamarin Forms, because that's good if you want to do a project to do some local storage of data that maybe you're gonna sync it later to a bigger application, but just a small model for staying on the phone. So what I'm doing is creating a standard project with an eco space and a model in it, and I will use a persistence mapper for storing the data as XML, because that's perfect for being a single user on the phone. That's called persistence mapper XML. Of course, this project cannot be used in Xamarin because it's not a portable project. So we're gonna come to this very soon. Just adding a property so I can reach the persistence mapper XML from outside the eco space. So in this model there is also a standard or a default view model. I'm going to delete that one because I don't need just that. So, and this is a .NET Framework 4 project, and that will not work with the portable libraries that I need for Android. So I'm gonna add a portable class library. I'm gonna call that portable with, I'm gonna call it with MDriven. And it's .NET Framework 4.5.1, okay. I'm gonna check this one. Oops, that's only 4.5, so I'm gonna have to change this one back to 4.5, or they won't be able to communicate, or I can't reference them from each other. So now I simply take the original .NET 4 project and copy the ecospace and the model file over to the portable, and then I remove the original like that. So, and here I don't have any runtime access to the things needed for MDriven, so I go to NuGet and find EcoCore, which includes the mono-develop assemblies, and I need the handles, the interfaces, and the link extender. And now I got some strange error that was because there's some mismatch between these projects. If you get this, just don't try to understand it, just restart Visual Studio and try to get it to work by adding and removing the references. Anyway, I've added the eco runtime assemblies to all of these projects, and in the main activity, this is where everything happens initially. So I create the ecospace that's gonna hold the objects, and I set it to active. But this is important because storing things to disk is actually platform specific. So I have implemented onload as XML and onsave as XML. That is specific for Android. This will be different on iOS. And also I spread the ecospace down to the default, the template project's mock data store. So I'm gonna start with replacing a few things in the default or template model. In the template model they have the base data object that has an ID, and created that, updated that in this Azure version, and it has the item, it has text in the description. So I've added these to my model, just the ones that I need, and also the inheritance to an item class. So, and as you see, the item inherited from the base data object, so it's just the same. So I update the code, and I have an instant reflection of my model in C#. The description and the text is available on the item that inherits the base data class, and of course this is generated by a tool. So that means that I can use the base view model let's see, this one adds item, and I've replaced all the references to the old item to my new item, which I call item class. And what happens from the start is that this was what was done before, so mock data was created, but now I have the eco space and I do the extends all instances of item class instead, and those are stored in this property. So this is the exact item class that I have in the model. So trying to build that. I see that I have a breakpoint on load as XML, and it now loads 2 items, and if I create a new one, new item, new description, and I end up in the add item async, which I replaced, and there I call the update database on my ecospace. And when that is executed, I end up in the on save as XML. So now I have 3 items in my ecospace, and if I restart the application, I would want to see that all 3 items are available. I end up in the load, and yes, I have. So we now have a way to use the model-driven model to handle the information and store it. Actually, in the body of the onCreate, I set the datetime and the ID to a GUID. So, and in the body of onUpdate, I set the onChangeTime. So everything should be okay from the old model. As we see, we have 0 references, so I can actually just drop all that code that was written for that purpose. And I get some errors, hopefully. Yeah, it's just the namespace that doesn't exist anymore, and it was spread out through the application. I'm gonna remove those. I'm gonna delete the folder as well. Let's look at the items view model. It has an observable collection, and it has quite a lot of code to do things. And it's inheriting from a base view model that has... No, that was the item view model. The base view model has things as title and is busy. So one approach would be to try and now we have replaced the model with MDriven. Why not replace the view model as well? So first we need to understand what happens. There's an item page, and there's the item page, and this binds to the title and to something called items in a list view, and then it writes out the text and description. So we could do a view model, a declarative view model. Let's call it items view model. Let's call it something specific so we know that it is ours. I'm gonna add item class all instances to simulate the need for showing all the items. And I'm adding the text, but was that called title instead? I don't remember. Something like that, and I check that box to get it generated by code. Let's see. Need to oh, I know what's wrong. There it was. Yeah. So here we have the declarative view model in C# code. So let us replace the old, or the one from the Xamarin example, with our view model. And I'm not sure what this is for actually, so maybe I should just, oops, this one was actually called items, so we're gonna change that one. And let's change this one as well to make it consistent. Update code. Yeah. So now that's called items. Now I'm not sure what this is doing, so I think I should better just comment it away for now. And the title, it's on the root of the view model, so that was actually not correctly done from the start. There the title is, and let's just set the static text. This is the MDriven view model. We will not use the UI hints, but let's make an effort anyway. Items, and then we have is busy is something we bind to. Alright, we're gonna need that one as well. And we say false. And the text and the description. Yes, that wasn't the title, that was the text, and I add the description. With that, update code. Like that, now the XAML binding would work for this. And I'm gonna add a get eco space alongside with the set eco space that I've added before, so that I have access to the eco space, which now basically is our data store. So since there was an interface to handle this, I need to update the interface. And build that. And let's see, we need to tell the MDriven platform that we are gonna use the declarative view model. So I say the view model definitions in application init for just this eco space. That will make sure that the resources are loaded. And this is important, the view model it's not created with the standard constructor, but the static method create, and it sends in the echo space. And then I set it to the binding context, the whole view model. So that item is actually the item from the view model, and I can clean things up a bit like that. So item detail view model takes an item class and shows the title and item. So that's another view model, but we're gonna leave that for now. And it actually creates one, and on the save click it updates the database. And if it disappears without saving, it discards the change. So this means that our old view model is completely replaced. Can delete that. Let's delete the file maybe. Like that. And build. Like so. And let's check this iData store interface. There's a lot of things we don't use anymore since they have been replaced by the logic in the MDriven framework. So let's clean it up a bit. Can take these, that, and that, and the implementation. Yes. Still compiles. Let's take some more. The pool and the sync. Yeah. And this was the old junk data, and this one shouldn't be needed because remember the view model stated all instances, so we actually don't use this because we don't use that. So we don't use this. Let's drop that one. And then yeah, we can drop this one. Like that. And we can drop some more things, but not really important. So it works as before, but a bit better since now it's real data that's stored on the device. It has a lot less manual written code. It makes it real quick to add new things or change new things as the requirements change. And all in all, you're all set for doing fantastic things. So we're using declarative view models that are really fast to get a hold of what they use. We have cross-reference everywhere. Just pointing at an attribute and we can see where it's used. So it's not without a doubt that you will see the benefits of doing it this way, but as your system grows, I really believe that you will have the benefits on the phone as we have seen on the desktop. So I'm gonna upload this to the wiki so you can download the example. Thanks for watching.